All right, good morning. And with natural light, again, providing the light for me today. And I'm kind of excited because later this morning, we're going to go out and get some more stuff for this. Um, yeah. Uh, it's funny how I see a store is closing. So Payless Shoes is closing its doors forever. Um, we go in looking for cheap shoes for the kids. What's this guy doing? He's gravitating to a sign that says fixtures are on sale. I'm like, oh, fixtures. I could use some more fixtures. So yeah, we'll see what I can come home with. All right. They've announced a new European series for next season, October 4th in Prague. So if you're in the Czech Republic or if you can get in there, you can watch the Chicago Blackhawks and the Philadelphia Flyers to open the season. Now, if you're in Stockholm, November 8th to 9th, you're in luck. You get to watch a home and home between the Buffalo Sabres and the Tampa Bay Lightning. And you know, this is fun. The Tampa Bay Lightning going over and playing overseas for a couple of days in Stockholm. Hedman very likely to play at home. Now, on less fun news, Pajot's going to have a hearing today for an incident last night with Ashton Sautner. So Sautner's going into the boards, and he caught him in the numbers and boarded him. Now, thankfully, Sautner seemed to be okay. But you know, it was a dangerous, reckless-looking play. So we'll see what the NHL does. It could very well just be a fine. I'm not anticipating it being a really big suspension or anything. I didn't even mention it in last night's review because I did think it was kind of dangerous, but I didn't think it was worthy of a suspension, so I didn't really mention it. Jimmy Howard signs a 1-year, $4 million extension for Detroit. Word has it, Blashill will be signing an extension with the Wings as well. How do you feel as a Wings fan about that the coach is going to stick around for a while? I would think a 2-year deal for him, but, you know, with Ken Holland, we'll see what he does. As if it wasn't enough that the New Jersey Devils are undermanned going into their game against the Bruins tonight, they will now be doing it without Kyle Palmieri. They're listing him with an upper body injury. I'm going to guess concussion. As I said, you know, when I was doing the review the other night for the last New Jersey game, and Palmieri takes a hit, and he just looked really dazed on the bench and not there. You guys know that glassed over look hockey players get. He had that, so I'm thinking that upper body injury is probably a concussion. And Will Butcher has an illness, and he'll be out. So basically, you get to see the American Hockey League team against the Boston Bruins, and we'll see how that goes for them. That is, of course, in New Jersey, and they're 27, 38, and 9 to start with. So, yeah. Palmieri's, you know, had just come back from an injury, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah. All right, now let's look at the playoff picture, which is in the middle of the board. Right now, there's 3 teams that I think realistically are fighting it out for those last 2 spots. Games played, Carolina's played 72. Both Columbus and Montreal have played 73. Your points totals, Carolina with 87, 84 for the Columbus Blue Jackets, and 83 for the Montreal Canadiens. This total, that's your regulation and overtime wins. That's your first tiebreaker. So Montreal has to finish ahead of anybody that they're behind. They can't be tied in points or they lose on the tiebreaker. It's 38 for Carolina, 39 for Columbus, 36 for Montreal. So we're down to those last few games. 9 games left for each of them, 10 games for Carolina. We'll see how that goes. Now, out west, it's a more muddled picture, and yet I don't think it's as muddled as it appears on the surface. So the Stars have 82 points, 73 games played, 38 regulation overtime wins. They're probably in pretty good shape. They're 4 points ahead of Arizona, 73 games played, 78 points, 32 regulation or overtime wins. Where it gets muddled is after that. So while Arizona has a game in hand on Minnesota, they're only a point ahead of Minnesota. And Minnesota has more regulation and overtime wins than does Arizona. Colorado, 76 points. They're 2 points back. They've played the same amount of games as Arizona. They have 1 game in hand on Minnesota. This could get really, really jumbled really, really quickly. And there's Chicago at 74 points. They have a game in hand on 2 of the 3 teams they're behind and 2 games in hand on the Minnesota Wild. Now, for Chicago, they have to win those games in hand on Minnesota They have to win that game in hand on Arizona and get some help along the way. But Chicago is not out of this. Their wins 30, so they're close enough that obviously if they catch up, they make up that 4-point difference. They would have those 2 extra wins. Vancouver's where it becomes a long shot. Yes, they're 4 points back, but they've played more games than Arizona, Colorado, and Chicago. So they are not in control of their own destiny. They've played the same amount of games as Minnesota, and they're 3 points back of Minnesota. They're behind Colorado, Minnesota, Arizona, and that's where it gets tricky. Is you have to pass all of those teams to make it into the playoffs. I'm proud of the guys that they've made it at least a conversation this late in the year. At this point last year, they're dead and buried. So playing games that mean something in March is important to them. You can tell that they're not happy with the way their season has gone, and they're at least going out strong. 73 games played, 71 points for the Oilers. That's as low as I could go to go on the board. They have one more regulation or overtime win than Vancouver, but they're 3 points behind Vancouver, and they're 7 points behind the playoffs. And for the Oilers to get in, yeah, they'd have to jump past 5 teams. So, yeah, that's as far out as I could go with that one. I didn't go to Philly on this one because I can't see Philly catching and passing 2 of these teams. In the West, it looks a little more vulnerable than it does in the East, but we'll see how things turn out from here. If I had to pick, I would say that Carolina, that they're in as far as I'm concerned. I can't see both Columbus and Montreal passing them. At the same time, I could totally see Montreal getting in there and getting that last wild card spot. They might be a good test for Tampa Bay. Carey Price can get on a run. And in the West, I think Dallas is going to get in. I'm very surprised by that. Even though, if you go back and check my predictions, I predicted Dallas to make the playoffs. Still, seeing them in there, that's a surprise. Here, I have no clue. I think it's between the top 3. I do. And I know Chicago's in this, but I feel like it's going to probably come down to Arizona, Minnesota, or Colorado. That's just my gut instinct. Could very well be Chicago. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. Just tap it upon this video. And hey, it's another bright sunny day out. Something strange going on around here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.